Absolutely, and I'm very, very excited to present to you today in this series, Henry, Bob, and Johnny. They are from a company called Line and Space, which is an architectural firm in Tucson. We are really very, very fortunate to have found such a world-class organization right on our doorstep here in Tucson. They don't only do work in the United States, they also have done quite a lot of work in China, and I'm sure they might share a little bit of that with you. So we went through quite a rigorous process of picking the architects in the first place, and what really connected us with Line and Space is the fact that they took time and really cared about what we were doing, came to the site, asked us lots and lots and lots of questions, and really demonstrated that we were more than just another project. They were also the only firm that came to visit us on site and walked up the mountain where the stupas are going to be. And it was only after that that they started really figuring out how this might work, because for those of you that don't know, Diamond Mountain ground is quite complicated. And there are lots of rules in the United States that we have to think about and follow. And so they really put the time in to understand all of those different elements to make sure that we were following all the laws, but we were also using the land in the best way possible and to honor the land as well. Today, they're going to be presenting to you the master plan. And the master plan is really sort of the very big conceptualization of how this might all hang together and work together. So it's not all the detaily things yet. That's the next phase. This is going to give us a very good idea of what it's going to look like in the end. And it's during this time that they also took the time to engage with all our different stakeholders, like the Diamond Mountain Board and Dr. Wu, to get feedback on the plan. So the plan has gone through several revisions so far. And what you will see today is the almost, but not quite, final version of it, because we're still making the last little adjustments. In the next phase, we're really going to be programming and getting into the detail. And we're going to start connecting all the different pieces and people together, like the marble quarry, which will be our next talk in July, to explain how all these pieces are going to fit together. So without much ado, I would like to hand it over to Bob, who's going to be presenting the plan to you today and telling you what they have designed for us so far. All right, Bob, unmute and over to you. Still have to unmute. There you go. Oh, you got muted again for some reason. Yep. And here we go.
Welcome all. As Hani said, my name is Bob Clements. I am one of the principals and architects with Line and Space in Tucson, Arizona. We're an architecture firm that's been in existence for over 40 years now. And we were founded on the philosophy of designing buildings that respond to a client's needs, the environment, and conserving important resources. I'd like to do a little slideshow that introduces some of our work to you, so you're familiar with how we approach sites and nature and environment with our buildings. So as Hanli mentioned, our team, the three of us, went down and visited them and climbed the mountain, the highest mountain on their property. This is an image of us on their Diamond Mountain Retreat Center's consecrated ground. The three of us that are participating in this project, leading this project, are Henry Tom, Johnny Birkenbein, and myself. The Arizona Desert Museum is a very famous museum located in our hometown of Tucson, Arizona, that teaches people about the Sonoran Desert, which is the desert that we live in here in Tucson. It has a wonderful collection of animals and plants. A few years ago, we were asked to, actually a couple decades ago, we were asked to design a new restaurant complex and museum gallery for them. This project clearly demonstrates how we work with the existing site and try to preserve as much of the natural environment as possible. As you can see, we incise the building into nature and preserve the existing vegetation. We always think about sequence and procession as we're entering buildings and moving through them. In this example, we used a shade structure that was a metaphorical representation of the anatomy of living creatures as a wayfinding device to enter the building and provide shade as you approach the building. Also in our designs, we're always thinking about the transition from hot to cold, exterior to interior, as well as bright sunlight to darker interior spaces. We try to modulate that transition as people enter a building. As I mentioned, we're always thinking about conserving resources. This is an example of an idea that we pioneered at this project. Over on the left-hand side, these objects here take the exhaust air from the building that's traditionally vented through the roof, but it has energy stored in it because it's already cooled the interior space. We take that previously used air to cool the interior space and duct it to these exterior patios to provide comfort during some of the hotter times of the year here in our environment. One of our projects that sits in the middle of a large metropolis here in Arizona, the capital of our state, Phoenix, is a community library that sits in an existing park adjacent to a lake. The lake informed the shape and design of the building, and we tried to create a space that served as a living room for the community. It presents an iconic image to the street to welcome people to use this facility. Another project that responds well to its existing site is a large residence that we did here in Tucson, Arizona. It's an exciting house that plays with light, texture, form, and scale. As Hanli mentioned, we've had a wonderful experience doing work in Asia. We were contacted in 2007 by a Chinese company and continued working with them until 2017. I'd like to show you some of our work that we've done in China. The Blue Dragon Lake project is a community center and museum for development, our client obtained a 500-year-old house to include in the project. We built a building around it to preserve it, but also used it as an opportunity to creatively use the spaces in new ways. What you see here is a sky hole that rainwater would fall through and collect in an interior courtyard in the house. They would use that water that's harvested through this opening in the roof for their domestic needs. Here you can see the house within the enclosure of the museum building that we designed. And this is a formal dining room inside that exterior court, what was once an exterior courtyard with a custom chandelier that is a metaphorical representation of the water falling through that opening in the roof. This was the first project that we did in China. We call it the Tianjin Bay Villas. It's located on the coast of Shenzhen, looking out over the Hong Kong Islands. This is another residential project where we designed several different single-family houses that sit on a small peninsula in between two resort beaches. An interior shot of one of the larger residences looks out over the ocean and responds well to the steep slope and landscape that existed on the site. Another project on this peninsula was a community center that we called Harmony and Balance. We do not have photographs of the completed construction, but we did these renderings to help our client understand the project. It includes a artist and residence living space and workspace, a studio for a person, artist that lives in this building. It also includes a large gallery space where these artists can display their artwork. Other functions include spaces for doing Tai Chi, yoga, massage, and therapy. This is the main gallery space in this building. The last project that we did in China that I will show you, we call the Two. Its first use was to be a sales office for a large development that our client used. After it completed its service as a sales office, it was to be turned into a community arts center for the surrounding development. It was a building that turned in on itself, but we wanted to keep people in tune with the nature and environment, so we created an interior courtyard. Now I'd like to present to you the master plan that Hanli described. The Diamond Mountain Retreat Center is a very remote, is at a very remote location. You approach it from a road, and there are some existing structures that the Diamond Mountain has developed over the years. They have an existing temple and a multi-purpose building that serves as a dining hall and an education center. Diamond Mountain enlisted us to develop this master plan to create a welcome center for additional visitors to the Diamond Mountain Retreat Center. People arriving would be greeted with a welcome center that invites them in and teaches them about the Diamond Mountain Retreat Center, as well as some other aspects of their property. A memorial wall and garden is the transition between the Welcome Center and the start of a Medicine Buddha stupa pilgrimage up the mount to the highest peak on Diamond Mountain's property. Included in the master plan were living arrangements for visitors, for volunteers and staff. Other aspects of the master plan include developing locations and settings for services for the retreat that are in what we call the upper campus, which is another valley adjacent and to the southwest of this Welcome Center and lower campus area. As I mentioned, there's a pilgrimage up the mount. We've learned a lot about different famous pilgrimages, as well as some ideas that Diamond Mountain wanted to include in this procession up the mount. The purple line that you see in this diagram is the Big Dipper. We've located stupas at the location of the stars in the Big Dipper, culminating with an intimate temple on the mount. This first area is what is known as the Apache Sacred Ground. Apaches are indigenous people that lived in the United States of America before white settlers came to our country. This area is a sacred and important place to them where they have ceremonies to this day. The Apaches have an interesting relationship with Diamond Mountain, each respecting each other. The first stupa location includes a temple area for about 100 people, as well as a meditation chamber and a caretaker residence who oversees this pilgrimage route up the mountain. Each of the stupa stops as you proceed up has a meditation chamber. And along the way, in between the stupa locations, we've included rest stops that will have a place where people can take a break from their journey, drink some water, and relax. The climb up the mountain will be built out of white marble with landings and steps that traverse the steep terrain.
So Bob, can I just fill in a little bit there while you're taking a breath?
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to realize that people would have driven at least 2 hours to get here, to go on the pilgrimage. And the reason why the initial piece that you showed, that lower campus piece with the welcome center and the parking spot, is that when people arrive, they'll probably need a minute to grab something to drink, to use the bathrooms, to orientate themselves. So it's really part of the pilgrimage and part of the stupas going up the hill. It is not something that is necessarily something that we're developing just for Diamond Mountain. It is an integral part of this project to make sure that that arrival experience and moving up the mountain adds value and gives people a minute to gather themselves and get ready, become mindful before they go on the actual pilgrimage to the stupas.
So as you can see, we're in the early stages of this project. It's a very exciting experience for us and we're learning a lot. Working with Diamond Mountain has been very interesting and exciting for us, and a wonderful experience.
Maybe, Bob, you can tell us a little bit what have been the challenges to place the stupas on the hill? Because I think this was one of the biggest challenges you had.
Yes. In approaching the design for the pilgrimage, the topography influenced this final layout that you see. The idea was to keep people moving in an upward direction to the temple on the mount. Also, some of the property lines impacted how we could lay out the pilgrimage and still reflect the layout that we've demonstrated.
And just so that everyone knows, sorry, Bob, that Line and Space presented us with different options of layouts as well. And we recently settled on this option for a variety of reasons that I'll share a little bit later.
I was going to mention that one of Diamond Mountain's good neighbors is a national monument associated with a historic military fort that sits off to the right of this image. One of the requirements of building on the Diamond Mountain property is that built features cannot be visible from that historic national monument. That also influenced how we designed this pilgrimage up the mount, because we had to keep it out of the view shed of this national monument.
Mm.
Some of the options that Hanli mentioned included different locations for the temple on the mount, all situated at different locations around this peak, Mount McCullough, where the temple would not be in view from the monument, the national monument. The other aspects of this project include how to build this. As you can see, it's a very steep mountain, and getting construction materials and people to build these up the site, up the mountain, is going to be a challenge. Not only is Line and Space architects, but we're also builders. And oftentimes we build our own projects, a couple of which you saw. To preserve the site, we often start at the furthest point away. It's the first point we start construction at, and then we build our way out so we're not disturbing the natural features of the site. We propose to Diamond Mountain that they take a similar approach with this project, basically starting at the top of the mountain with construction and then building down the mountain. We would consider developing this first stupa and some of its associated features, such as the temple and meditation space, as a way to introduce people to the site while construction's happening. The upper campus that we talked about sits over this ridge line and has some roads already developed. Those roads provide us a nice opportunity to actually climb the backside of this mountain and get materials and construction laborers up here to the top of the mountain to build some of the higher features along the pilgrimage. And with that, I guess I'd like to conclude our presentation, unless Hanli, Henry, Johnny, or Sunam have stuff that they would like us to add.
Sure. I'd like to add a few things that I think are interesting features that you've considered. So when Line and Space came to Diamond Mountain, we hiked all the way up to that peak on a hiking path that Venerable Carding and I walked 15 or 20 times to just have a look at the land. So we went along this very high ridges all the way along the top. That will remain there. So if someone feels very fit and healthy and energetic, they can do that hike. But the thing that was very important to many of the stakeholders was that a lot of people who might come here might not be young and energetic and fit and want to climb all the way up a mountain. And so we designed it lower into the valley so that at least I think to what is now the stupa 5 that might change, people who are perhaps not very fit or not feeling very well because this is a medicine Buddha pilgrimage could make it at least to there. There's also an exit line, the red line that you see. If you're done at stupa 5 and you really don't feel like climbing all the way up the steps to the top of the mountain, you could come back along what we call the wash, which is really a dry riverbed that's very beautiful with lots of trees and vegetation, back to the lower campus without too much effort. And so the consideration there was really to think about the people who would come here, what condition they might find themselves in physically, and not to overburden them, but also to leave a little bit of a challenge at the end for those that are on a pilgrimage and need a little bit of a challenge in climbing the steps to the temple at the top. Yeah. The other thing that I thought really well thought through was for each of the stupas, and you'll hear more about the stupas in July, and the design of the stupas and the marble, the foundation for each of these stupas will be a circular or round concrete base. It's the thinking at the moment. And that on top of that will go the stupa, and that will also allow for people to circumambulate or go around the stupa. And so you might see, if you look in a little bit of detail, you can see that the bases are shown there. Another one of the requests was that at certain of the stupas, there would be a meditation chamber or space where you could sit and meditate on marble. And that's also been incorporated at certain or almost all of the stupas.
One aspect which impressed me in the master plan is, as said, the whole area with the parking lot and the welcoming visitor center is designed to prepare the visitor for the journey up the mountain. And maybe, Bob, if you can show it with the mouse, that when you are standing exactly at the visitor center, you are looking really, you are like coming through a gateway, looking up the mountain and seeing the stupa and up to the top of the hill. So, and I think that's really what I would like to say. Thank you to Henry, Bob, and Johnny. They have given us so many questions and ideas, and I think put it into the master plan that it's really a journey for the people who are coming, and that it's really a pilgrimage and not driving by, hopping out of the car, going to a stupa and then going home again. So it's really an experience. I don't know, Henry, if you want to say a little bit about the experience. I have the feeling it's your.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I think Bob did a incredible job presenting the project. One of the things that we wanted to do as part of this project was to create an inclusive spiritual experience for all people of just, you know, regardless of your religious belief, regardless of who you are. It's an inclusive place that becomes you become very connected to the land, and you become very connected to this incredible and beautiful location that we have in southern Arizona. I think once project comes to fruition, we will be getting visitors from all over the world coming to this place to experience what has been created. And I think once you come here and when you leave, you'll have a newfound appreciation of the Diamond Mountain Retreat area and the location that we're in.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm certainly not aware of any other similar concept or idea or plan anywhere in the United States that includes marble steps with marble stupas up a mountain. So this will be a first of its kind here. And I think that in itself will draw a lot of interest and allow us also to have as many people here that we can share Diamond Mountain and what we do and all our worldview organizations do through this experience as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
give them the incredible experience of stupas, which, yes, we have a few, but I think this will be very, very exceptional that we have the opportunity to show this to the Westerner people as well. Yeah. Good. Then I would open up for questions. Hanli, what do you think?
Just hang on a second. Bob was going to say something, I think.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to add, historically, this property in the region that Diamond Mountain Retreat Center is located in had abundant vegetation, larger trees and denser trees. And man impacted it by harvesting a lot of that for building materials as well as cooking fuel, things like that. One thing that's very respectful of Diamond Mountain is they would like to restore some of that vegetation through a landscape enhancement process. I think that's going to also add to the experience of people that are coming here from all over the world in regards to understanding how this land once was, and also providing shade and relief while they're experiencing this property.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that would include things like trees, which will create not only restore the land, but also, as you say, create spaces to pause, to be in some shade as you're going up the mountain. So that's an integral part of the master plan as well, as to make sure that we do some of that, which is very important to some of the stakeholders also. Okay, so now we can go to, one more thing. The plan that will come next will go in phases. So as the money comes in, and Suna will mention that in a minute, but the idea initially is just to start perhaps with the first stupa and then the temple on the mountain, so that at least there is a pathway that goes up that you can walk no matter what's been built and not built so far. And in time, all the other stupas will come as the funds roll in as well. So just so that you know that this will probably be a phased approach moving from here.
Thank you so much, Bob, for presenting this. It's really so exciting and really turned out so beautiful. I'm very optimistic that we build an incredible pilgrimage. I would open up for questions. So please, if you have a question, put it in the chat. Obviously, we have answered all questions. Then I would go on and report the actual numbers. Bob, would you mind to stop sharing? Because otherwise I cannot share. Thank you so much. as always, we would like to say thank you for all your incredible generosity. And these are the actual numbers for May. I don't want to read each one to you. It's really so impressive how many of you constantly give often more time than once per month. And I'm simply very grateful. And I think you have seen today that we will create an incredible pilgrimage which will benefit many, many people. We have a few updates for you, so you can always check the Diamond on the Diamond Mountain website, our stupa update page. And I would like to walk you through, because there you can really get all the actual numbers anytime you want to see them. So when you go to the stupa update page, first, you see just the stupa series. You can access the recordings of our stupa series. Also, this one of today will be soon online. Then you can access them from here. And then you see now in real time the actual donation status for all the pledged stupas. And below that, you find the actual numbers of May. Like for each stupa, you find the breakdown of each country, and you find the actual expenditures. So I don't want to bore you today with the numbers and give them to you. If you are interested in the numbers, please go to the update website and you find them always up to date. And there is very, very, very interesting news. I'm not sure because I checked today in my morning. So I think today we will break the 2 millions. Thank you so much. And I think really what Hanli mentioned, oh, I think I'm talking too fast. What Hanli mentioned, that we can really, when Linen Space, Bob Henry and Johnny have gone through the next phase, which is the programming, and laid out all details, we are able to start with the first stupa. And that excites me totally, that we are in a state that we can really do this.
And so now when you finish, there are some questions coming through, so just leave a space for that.
Yes. I need to. So yes, then I would say let's go to the questions.
All right. So the first question is, are there many stupa sites in the US and in Europe? I don't know if Line and Space have a number answer to that. I would say that there are stupas in the US. I don't think there are many. There are certainly in Europe, but again, there are not many. What there is not is a series, to my knowledge, a series of stupas, and certainly built out of marble. That is something that I think is unique to this project. I don't know if anyone else has information about that question.
Mm-hmm. I think that it's really a complete, like it is in the most places in Asia, that these stupas are a pilgrimage. I don't know of any around in the Western. Most of the time it's some kind of, yes, there is a small Buddhist community and they have built a stupa, but it's not like developed as a pilgrimage.
Bob, would you say that that's probably correct from your understanding?
Yeah, from our understanding, this is going to be in a setting that competes with, not competes isn't the right term, but is at the level of some of the famous pilgrimages, and the first one probably in the Western Hemisphere.
Mhm.
We have done some research on other stupas, and there are some, as mentioned, in the United States and in Europe, but there are not that many.
So we are stupa pilgrimage pioneers. We're like cowboys. We the first.
Yeah, and maybe I take the opportunity to answer a question we got last time, haven't had the time to answer. The question was, how do we maintain all of these stupas after we have built them? And I was writing a business plan for this in 2020. And this also supports and fosters the idea of the pilgrimage. You really need to develop the pilgrimage and, in a very worldly sense, market it, make it public, give the people the whole experience, because then you can maintain and keep the whole site, all stupas, all the buildings running and maintaining, because when people come, yes, you make money. They need to drink something. They will buy beautiful books about stupas and the medicine Buddha. So this will be the foundation for maintaining the whole site as well.
Exactly. The other aspect about maintenance, which we'll talk about a little bit when we choose the stupa design, is we are trying to design in the way that requires minimal maintenance, but still the pilgrimage path itself and surrounding buildings will require maintenance all the time. The next set of questions really around impact on the land, permaculture. So the one question is, where is it gone now? Do you plan using the principles of permaculture to retain water to plant trees? And also, how are you minimizing impact of construction? I think the construction question I'm going to hand over to Bob, because you probably answer that better than I can. And about the permaculture, that is something that we very much have in mind in the next phase to figure that out. And Diamond Mountain always will aim to use permaculture principles when touching the land. So that's a yes and more to come. But from a construction perspective, Bob, maybe you can say more.
Well, as I mentioned, one of the approaches that we use to preserve the environment is we start at the far points of a project when we're building. And so traffic and construction activities happen where we're building into. We basically start at the extreme, most distant location and build out from or backwards from that point, using the land that we destroy during the construction as the future location for what we're building. Some aspects of the actual pilgrimage is at some of the rest stops that we described, where people will have a respite from the environment and the arduous climb. That presents an opportunity of a space where we can stage materials, store materials for construction, as well as use it as a place for some vehicular activity, such as turning around so you can return on the path you came up. In regards to harvesting rainwater for vegetation, we live in a very dry climate here. And one exciting event that happens from time to time is we actually get rain. The rain that we get comes in these very exciting events where we receive a lot of rain period. Soil doesn't go very fast. So what happens is a lot of that dramatic rainfall that comes down at once runs down what Hanley described as a wash or a dry riverbed in a very dramatic event. And so what we hope to do with this project is slow that water down. If we develop a system of drainage that slows it down, it gives it the opportunity to percolate or soak into the soil, which will then supplement the water that the plants are getting from the rain just falling on the ground. As it travels down the mountain, we hope to create sort of catchments that will contain that water, around which will develop denser areas of vegetation and gardens.
Yes, that's a water. The water is going to be one of our big challenges to solve, no doubt. Okay. Other questions that have come up are around the actual stupas. The one is, will Line and Space build the stupas? Will the stupas be painted in any way? And will the dome itself be marble? I'll start with the first one. In terms of building the stupas, there are several people who have to be involved in that. And Line and Space are very likely to be one of them. The other people who will be involved are the marble quarry and perhaps their engineers. Currently, they have 2 sets of engineers figuring out how to use marble to build stupas. And then the last and probably most important piece are the monastics that would have to be involved. And at this point, it is Lothar in Asia, and he is going to be informing and making sure that we follow the process correctly and doing all the requisite pieces that make sure that the land is blessed and the stupa project or building is done in the correct way. So there will be several people involved in building the stupas. The other is about painting the stupas. Right now, the stupas are going to be made out of marble. And the marble comes from the nearby quarry. There are different types of marbles, and you'll learn about that in July. We'll see the quarry and all the different marbles that can be used. So I think that at this point, painting the stupa might not be something that we'll be doing, because I don't think that painting on marble is a thing. But that might change as we begin to design more carefully. But at this point in time, no painting of the stupas. When you ask about the dome being of marble itself, I'm assuming you might be asking about the temple at the top. Oh, the dome. Yes, again, same with that. We've looked at 3 different options that we could use to cover the dome piece of the stupa. And we're looking at the design that will require the least maintenance and let in the least water. So there are different ways that you could do that. And at this point, it will be made out of marble as well.
And I would like also to deepen the question. Maybe, Bob, you could tell us a little bit about the foundation for the stupa, which is necessary in this environment.
Yeah, the terrain is a challenge for locating an object on here, just because of the slope of it. And because of the idea of circumambulation around stupas is important, we plan on building a base. As Hanley mentioned, it might be out of concrete, but we need to create a level platform on a steep site. And so it's going to be incised into the back uphill side and project out down on the downhill side, creating a level platform for the stupa and for people to circulate around the stupa. One aspect of this that we'd like to consider is to help the stupa blend into the natural environment. While the stupa is made of a very formal and beautiful stone, we may consider a more natural stone as a cladding around this base to help that platform blend with the natural environment.
Great. Thank you so much.
I think those are all the questions that I've noticed. I hope I haven't missed anybody. Doesn't look like it.
Good.
So if you're comfortable, we can move to close. And we've spoken quite a bit about what is happening next. And July the 5th, whoops, there's another one. Keep on popping up just as we close. I think people are really thinking about their questions carefully. Would we consider building a platform out of earth instead of concrete? I will answer on behalf of Line and Space, and they can correct me if I'm wrong. I would imagine that that is one of the things that need to be considered right now. Perhaps it is possible, but we also have to consider that the platform on which the stupa is has to be very, very, very secure and solid. I don't know if earth will do that. And the reason for that is that when you build a marble stupa, it is incredibly heavy. And so what it rests upon, and one of the very clear instructions we have from monastic mentors, is that the earth has to be 100% secure as to prevent any movement or cracking or shifts in the stupa. And so that's what we're going to be focusing on. So we will use whatever material answers that particular request. And I can see you're all very interested in the stupas, and I'm very happy about that. So in the first Saturday in July, we are going to have a presentation by Cochise Marble, are the people that we are getting the marble from. They are going to explain the quarry. They're going to explain how they get the marble out of the quarry, and we can talk a little bit more about how far we've gotten in terms of conceptualizing the stupa design made out of marble. And an interesting little side note here is that Bob is very familiar with the quarry. He used to hike up there when the quarry was closed and not owned by these people, to go look at the marble, and took pieces of marble and made sculptures out of it. So he's also very familiar with that, and that is why we want to bring together all these different crowds in the design of the stupa, which is going to be our next focus, is really to understand that we're ticking all the boxes, that we've covered all the monastic requirements, that we've covered all the design and structural requirements, and that whatever the marble has to look like, or what we have to do with the marble to stand the stupa, that's the really important next bit. And hopefully we can tell you more about that in a month's time. So we want to thank you all for being here. We want to thank Henry, Bob, and Johnny for all the hard work that they've done. It's been absolutely amazing working with you. We are thrilled that you are on this project, and we know that we are in safe hands. And we will keep on informing everyone else about things as they go along. But please also follow the link that Venerable Sunam has offered if you are interested in updates and more details. And of course, you're allowed to send us any questions that you might have as well after this. This presentation is going to be posted. Feel free to share it once it is posted, because we are now at a point where we can share a lot of this information that we've been working on for the last 6 months. All right. Hey everybody, I hope you're going to have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are. Enjoy, and we'll see you in a month.
Thank you so much, Bob. Thank you so much, Henry. And Johnny in the background.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, translators. I hope that worked out for you. Thank you so much, all recorders.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope we didn't go too fast for anyone.
Thank you, Tatiana. Thank you, Pachi.
Thank you, everyone.
I hope you're all excited and you'll tell everybody.
Okay, bye, everyone.
Bye,
Goodbye.
Tati. Thank you. Have a nice weekend.